Jack Reed was not a man who liked surprises. He was a mechanic, a fixer. From broken engines to stubborn machines, Jack had fixed almost everything humans used in space. His hands were rough but steady, his mind sharp, and his courage steady. That morning, Jack was fixing a small rover on the landing platform of the space station Orbit 1 when the urgent call came in. "Jack Reed, report to the royal flagship of the Cyrexian Empire immediately," the message said. It was marked Priority 1, the highest level. Jack wiped his hands on his worn jumpsuit and hurried to the ship. The royal flagship was famous and mysterious. No human had ever entered the private parts of the ship before. It was a symbol of Cyrexian power and pride. The Cyrexians were the ruling alien race in this part of the galaxy. They looked very different from humans. Tall, thin, with long limbs and shining skin that changed colors with their emotions. As Jack stepped aboard, the grand halls of the ship stretched before him. The walls glowed faintly with blue lights, and strange machines hummed softly. He was led by a young Cyrexian officer who spoke in a smooth voice. "Life support systems are failing in the Queen's private chamber," the officer explained. "The environmental controls are near collapse. The Queen insists this must be fixed immediately." Jack nodded. Life support was a human specialty. Even in the farthest reaches of space, humans had mastered the art of keeping air clean, temperatures perfect, and systems stable. But this was the first time he was asked to fix something inside an alien royal chamber. His heart beat a little faster. The officer led Jack down narrow corridors. Everything was alien. Smooth metal surfaces, strange symbols on the walls, and no signs in any language Jack recognized. At last, they stopped at a large door. "This is the Queen's chamber," the officer said with respect. "Enter carefully." Jack took a deep breath. The door slid open with a soft hiss. The room inside was large, filled with soft lights that seemed to dance in the air. There was a strange, sweet smell that Jack could not place. He stepped inside, eyes scanning for the life support controls. Then he froze. In the center of the room stood the alien queen. She was tall, taller than any human, with smooth, glowing skin that shifted colors softly from blue to green. Her eyes were large, golden, and intelligent. She was bare, no clothes at all. This was normal for her people when in private, Jack guessed, but for him it was shocking. The Queen's eyes widened in shock and her whole body stiffened. "Human," she whispered. Jack quickly looked away, feeling a heat rise to his cheeks. I'm sorry. I didn't know this was your private chamber." "Why are you here?" she asked, her voice calm but curious. Jack swallowed hard. "There is a problem with the life support system. If I don't fix it, the chamber could lose air and temperature control. You could be in danger." The Queen studied him. Then she smiled slightly. "You are brave to come here without permission." Just then, two tall Cyrexian guards appeared at the door. They looked angry to see a human in this sacred place. "Remove him," one guard barked. The Queen raised her hand, and the guards stopped. "Let him speak." Jack breathed out slowly, feeling relief. The Queen stepped closer, her eyes never leaving Jack's face. "You must fix this quickly. I cannot have this chamber fail." Jack nodded and turned to the controls near the wall. The machines looked very different from anything he had seen before, but the principles were the same. He studied the strange panels, pressing buttons, checking readouts, and adjusting settings. Minutes passed. Jack's hands moved quickly, his mind focused. "Life support failure is caused by a broken coolant valve," Jack explained. "If this valve stops, the temperature will rise or drop too fast." The Queen nodded. "Can you fix it?" Jack smiled. "I will do my best." He found the valve, a thin pipe glowing faintly with blue liquid. Carefully, Jack removed the broken valve and replaced it with a new one he carried in his toolkit. The new valve fit perfectly. As Jack finished the repair, the room's temperature slowly stabilized. The airflow normalized, and the soft humming of the machines returned to steady. Jack wiped sweat from his forehead. "It is fixed." The Queen stepped forward. "You saved my life, human." Jack felt honored, but also awkward. "It was my job." She smiled softly. "You are different from others. Most of my people would not dare enter here." Jack looked up and met her golden eyes. "I want to help, Queen Zelria. I want to build trust between our peoples." Her name felt strange and beautiful on his tongue. "Then stay," she said suddenly. "Come with me on a journey. We will visit the worlds that suffered in the war. I want your help to rebuild." Jack blinked. "Me? Why?" "Because you have skill. Because you have courage. Because humans do not fear what others cannot do. And because I want to learn your ways." Before Jack could answer, the door opened and the young officer returned. "The council is angry. They say a human should not be near the Queen." The Queen's face hardened. "Then let them be angry. My decision is final." Jack realized then that he was not just a mechanic anymore. He was part of something much bigger, a chance for peace and friendship between very different beings. As the royal flagship moved away from Orbit 1, Jack looked out at the stars. A new adventure was beginning, and it all started when the alien Queen was bare and shocked to see him enter her chamber. Jack Reed could hardly believe what was happening. The alien Queen, Zelria, had just made him her technical advisor. It was more than he ever expected. A simple mechanic from Earth, now part of an alien royal court. He felt both proud and nervous. The royal flagship moved silently through space toward the first war-torn world the Queen wanted to visit. Jack followed Zelria through the ship's halls. The walls glowed with soft colors that changed slowly, reflecting the mood of the place. But the most surprising thing was the Queen herself. She walked with grace and power. Her skin shimmered with colors, greens, blues, and soft golds. Jack had never seen anything like it. But the strangest part was the way the Cyrexians lived. Clothes were rare, especially in private areas. For them, being bare was normal. It showed trust and respect. Jack struggled to keep his eyes polite. "You seem uncomfortable," Zelria said with a small smile. "Our people do not cover ourselves as humans do." Jack nodded. "It's different, yes, but I want to understand." She stopped and looked at him. "Good. You must learn our ways if you are to help us." That was easier said than done, Jack spent hours learning how Cyrexian machines worked. Their technology was very advanced, but also very strange. The controls responded to touch and thought. Even the ship itself seemed alive in some way. The Queen was patient with Jack. She answered his many questions, and slowly he felt a connection forming, not just as worker and ruler, but as two beings from very different worlds trying to understand each other. But not everyone on the ship liked Jack's new role. The Cyrexian nobles whispered behind closed doors. They called Jack a human outsider. They said the Queen had made a terrible mistake. One noble, a tall, sharp-eyed Cyrexian named Varlock, was especially angry. "This human must be removed," Varlock told the council. "He has no place near the Queen." Zelria ignored him. She trusted Jack. One day, as the ship orbited a broken planet called Draylon, disaster struck. The royal flagship shook violently. Alarms blared. Jack rushed to the control room. The main ceiling panel had cracked and begun to fall. "If that panel hits the engine controls, it will cause a fire," the ship's pilot shouted. Jack jumped forward. Using his strength, he caught the heavy panel just before it smashed down, but the ceiling was still unstable. "We need to fix the support beams," Jack said quickly. "Otherwise, more damage will come." Zelria entered the room, her eyes wide. "Is the ship in danger?" "Maybe," Jack said. "But I can fix it. I just need tools and time." The Queen nodded. "Do what you must." Jack gathered his tools and went to work. The Cyrexian engineers watched, surprised to see a human take charge. Jack worked fast, using his knowledge of Earth engineering. He reinforced the beams with metal braces from the ship's stores. Hours passed. The danger passed. Zelria came to thank him personally. "You saved my ship again," she said softly. Jack smiled. "I just do my job." But the sealing problem was not just an accident. It was sabotage. Jack discovered strange marks on the support beams, signs of cutting and weakening. "Someone tried to bring down the Queen's ship," Jack said to Zelria. Her face grew dark. "Who would do such a thing?" Jack shook his head. "I don't know yet, but I will find out." The days that followed were tense. Jack worked with the Queen to strengthen security, but the nobles' anger grew. Varlock tried to turn the crew and council against Jack. "Why should we trust a human?" he said. "He walks in bare rooms without respect. He is a spy." The Queen stood firm. "Jack is loyal. I trust him." Jack felt the weight of their suspicion, but kept his focus. He wanted to prove himself, not just for the Queen, but for all humans. As the ship moved to the next war-torn planet, Jack began to understand the Cyrexian culture more deeply. The Queen explained how their people had survived centuries of war through unity and trust. "We wear little because we trust each other," she said. "It is a sign that we are open and honest." Jack thought about humans and their own customs. On Earth, clothes hid emotions and status. Here, being bare was a sign of truth. He found it strange but beautiful. One evening, while the ship was quiet, Jack sat with Zelria in her chamber. This time, he knocked before entering. "Good," she smiled. "You learned quickly." They talked about their worlds, hopes, and fears. Jack realized that despite differences, both species wanted peace and respect. "We can build a future together," Jack said. Zelria nodded. "If we can trust each other." But trust was fragile. The shadow of sabotage and noble hate loomed. Jack knew that if he wanted to help the Queen and her people, he had to be more than a mechanic. He had to become a bridge between worlds. And the next challenge was coming fast. Jack Reed stood in the heart of the royal flagship, staring at the broken coolant pipe in his hands. It was the third damaged part he had found that week. This was no accident. Someone was trying to destroy the Queen's ship from the inside. He didn't say anything at first. He wanted to be sure. The pipe had been carefully sliced, almost invisible to the eye, but Jack's fingers could feel it. He had been working with machines since he was a teenager on Earth. This kind of cut was clean, too clean. Someone had used a laser tool, like the ones used by human engineers. He stared at the mark again. A sharp chill ran down his spine. This is human-made. That evening, Jack stood before Queen Zelria in her private chamber. She stood tall, glowing soft blue, her skin reflecting calm, but her eyes showed worry. "Sabotage?" she asked. Jack nodded. "Yes, Your Majesty. Someone inside your ship is trying to damage it piece by piece, and they're using tools. Only humans carry." The Queen's golden eyes narrowed. "You think one of your own is behind this?" "I don't know," Jack said honestly. "But the damage matches human tools." Zelria turned to the window, looking out at the stars. "My people will not react well to this," she said. "They already whisper about your presence." Jack clenched his jaw. "Then let me prove I didn't do it." The next day, an emergency meeting of the Cyrexian High Council was called aboard the ship. All nobles, including Lord Varlock, were present. Jack stood in the middle under bright lights, surrounded by tall, serious faces. Varlock stepped forward, his skin flashing red with anger. "We warned the Queen," Varlock said. "The human walks our sacred halls. Now the ship is under attack. From within." Jack tried to speak, but Varlock raised his voice. "3 systems damaged, life support nearly failed, coolant lines cut, and the tools used Human-made. Is this not proof? Whispers filled the room. Eyes turned toward Jack. The Queen raised her hand. Silence returned. "Let him speak," she commanded. Jack stepped forward. His voice was calm but strong. "Yes, the damage was done with tools made by humans," he said. "But I carry my tools with me at all times. They're marked, checked. I never leave them behind." He held out his toolkit. A soft hum came from the scanner beside him. The Queen nodded to a guard, who scanned the kit. "All tools present," the guard confirmed. "No extras, no signs of recent use." Varlock narrowed his eyes. "That proves nothing." Jack smiled slightly. "Actually, it does. I left something else behind." He walked to the wall and tapped into the ship's system console. "While fixing the coolant valve last time, I installed a small Earth-made patch into the monitoring system. It records all access to engineering controls, including what tools were used and by whom." He pressed a few buttons. A large screen lit up. Everyone watched as the recording played. A tall Cyrexian engineer, not Jack, entering the lower deck late at night. The engineer carried a small bag and used a hidden tool to cut into the pipe. He left, quickly and quietly. Varlock's face turned pale green. "That's Counselor Threx," a voice whispered. Queen Zelria's eyes flashed gold. "Bring him in." The guards moved quickly. Minutes later, Threx stood before them, shaking. I only wanted to weaken the ship," Threx confessed. "So the Queen would see that trusting a human was dangerous. I didn't mean real harm. You endangered your queen," Zelria said coldly. "You risked lives." She looked at Varlock. "You supported him, didn't you?" Varlock raised his hands. "I did not know of this plan." The Queen turned away. "Enough," she faced the council. "This human saved my ship. Twice. He risked his life for me and for all of you, and now he has uncovered a traitor within our own ranks." Her voice echoed across the chamber. "I name Jack Reed, human of Earth, an ally of the Cyrexian Empire. Anyone who questions that will answer to me." After the meeting, Jack stood outside, the Queen's chamber, staring at the stars again. His heart was still racing. He had never spoken before so many powerful aliens, but he had done it. He had cleared his name. "Jack," came the Queen's soft voice. He turned. She stepped closer, her skin a soft golden hue, a color he had not seen before. "You were brave," she said. Jack gave a small smile. "I just wanted the truth to come out." "You showed it. And now, I need your help again." Jack nodded. "Of course." Zelria led him to a control room deep inside the ship. There, she showed him a map of the Cyrexian star systems. "This is where we go next," she said, pointing to a world named Veltron. "It is the capital, the heart of our empire." Jack frowned. "I thought the capital was peaceful." "It was," the Queen said. "But after today's events, the nobles are angry. Some believe I have gone too far. They may try to stop me." Jack crossed his arms. "Do you want backup?" Zelria looked at him. "I want help. And maybe protection." Jack thought for a moment. "I can call Earth. We have a dreadnought nearby, part of the peacekeeping treaty. They can stay hidden unless needed." The Queen nodded. "Do it." Later that night, Jack used a secure terminal to contact the Earth vessel Midnight Spear, a giant human warship hidden near the edge of Cyrexian space. "Commander Vega," Jack said. "This is Reed. We might have trouble soon. The Queen wants to reach Veltron safely." The commander's voice was sharp. "We're cloaked and listening. If things get hot, we'll come in swinging." Jack thanked her. He hoped they wouldn't need the ship, but it was good to have it nearby. Before resting, Jack walked past the Queen's chamber again. This time, she opened the door and called to him. "Come in." He stepped inside carefully. She was seated, wearing a thin royal wrap. Rare for her species, but Jack noticed it immediately. "You wore this for me?" he asked. She smiled. "I thought it might make you more comfortable." Jack laughed lightly. "I'm learning. Slowly." She stood, close now. Not touching, just close. "You continue to surprise me, human." "You too," he said. They stood, together in silence, looking out the window at the glowing stars. Two very different beings, two very different worlds. But at that moment, they were just two souls trying to build something new, something better. The royal flagship slowly entered orbit around Veltrin, the Cyrexian Empire's capital world. The planet below shimmered like a jewel, bright cities glowing against deep green oceans. But not all was peaceful. Queen Zelria stood at the front of the bridge, her golden eyes staring down at her homeworld. She knew what waited below: angry nobles, whispers of rebellion, and a council that now doubted her leadership. Jack Reed stood behind her, arms crossed, watching everything. His tools were replaced by a simple wrist communicator, secretly connected to the hidden Earth dreadnought, Midnight Spear. "Are you sure about this?" Jack asked quietly. The Queen didn't turn. "If I do not face them now, I lose everything. My rule, my people. Even hope for peace between us." Jack nodded. He respected her strength. After everything, sabotage, betrayal, lies, Zelria still stood proud. "I'll be right behind you," Jack said. She smiled faintly. "I know." As the shuttle carried them down to Veltrin, Jack could see the royal city glowing in the night. Tall silver towers rose from green forests, and floating platforms buzzed with air traffic. But he also noticed the signs of tension: military patrols, darkened government buildings, and the absence of celebration. They landed in the Court of Stars, a massive domed building where the Cyrexian High Council met. The Queen wore her royal wrap, long, silver, and shining in the light. Her skin shimmered deep blue, a color of strength among her people. Jack, dressed in a clean gray human uniform, walked beside her. Inside the dome, hundreds of nobles and officials had gathered, their eyes locked on the Queen, and then narrowed. As they saw Jack, Varlock stood at the front, arms raised. "My Queen returns, bringing her human shadow," he declared. "Does she come to rule for her people, or for the outsiders?" Jack stayed calm. He had expected this. Queen Zelria stepped forward, her voice clear and firm. "I return to remind you what leadership means. It does not mean fear. It means courage. It means choosing truth over tradition when tradition fails," the nobles murmured. Some nodded, others glared. Varlock laughed. "You trust a human more than your own kind. He walks among you with hidden tools. He even calls for Earth's warships to stand nearby, ready to strike." Gasps filled the hall. Jack's heart skipped. How did they know about Midnight Spear? Zelria narrowed her eyes. "You have spies in my crew, Varlock. So be it. Let them hear the truth." She turned to the council. "Yes, a human ship waits at the edge of our system, but not as an enemy, as protection. I called for them, not to fight, but to make sure I could speak freely, that I would not be silenced by traitors. Again." The room fell silent. Jack stepped forward. "You've all heard stories about humans, that we are violent, wild, untrustworthy. Maybe some of that was true, but humans also believe in loyalty, in fixing what's broken, in building something better." He looked around the hall, voice steady. "I didn't come to control anyone. I came because the Queen asked for help. And I helped. Not because she is alien, but because she is brave." Some heads began to nod. Zelria raised her hand. "Today, I offer the council a choice. Stand with me and walk forward, or stand against me and fall behind." Outside the dome, Varlock's private guards began to move. They had a secret order. If the Queen refused to step down, they would remove her by force. Inside, tension rose. One of the council leaders stood up. "I still don't trust the human, but the Queen has not failed us." Another noble agreed. Then another. Varlock's eyes burned with fury. "You are fools! She weakens our race. She lets Earth walk over us." He raised a small device. Jack saw it. A detonator. "Guards!" the Queen shouted. But it was too late. A hidden explosive went off near the entrance. Smoke filled the hall. Screams rang out. Varlock's forces moved in. Jack grabbed the Queen's hand. "Come on!" They ran through the smoke, ducking blasts and shouting warnings. The Queen's royal. Guards fought to protect her, but they were outnumbered. Jack touched his wrist calm. "This is Reed to Midnight Spear. Activate Cloak Drop. Show yourself, but don't fire unless I say." High above Veltrin, the human dreadnought appeared from invisibility. Its massive black body blocked out part of the stars. It sent a clear signal. "We are watching. Do not make us act." The Syrexian military forces paused. They weren't ready for war with Earth. In the confusion, Jack and Zelria escaped through a back corridor. "Are you okay?" Jack asked, coughing from the smoke. "I'm fine," she said, brushing dust from her skin. "But this is open rebellion now." Jack turned to her. "Let's take back the court." Minutes later, the Queen stood again before the council, this time with her elite guards at her side. Jack stood beside her, bruised but standing tall. Varlock was captured and dragged before them. "You tried to kill your queen," a counselor said in shock. Varlock didn't fight. He just sneered. "Better death than weakness." Queen Zelria raised her head high. "Then you will face justice." She turned to the rest. "Let all hear. I will not surrender to fear. I will not bow to traitors. I will not turn away from the future." Her voice rang through the dome. Jack looked around and saw the nobles finally seeing the truth. Not all Syrexians would accept humans, but now many saw Jack not as an enemy, but as an ally. Later, in her private chambers on Veltrin, Zelria stood quietly beside a large window. Jack entered, walking slowly. "You could have died today," he said. She nodded. "So could you?" He looked at her. "You didn't need to trust me, but you did." She stepped closer. "And you didn't need to save me, but you did." Jack smiled a little. "So, what now?" Zelria's golden eyes locked onto his. "Now, we rebuild. Together." Jack chuckled. "Good, because I think I've earned a bigger toolbox." The Queen laughed, a soft musical sound. The warship Midnight Spear slowly left orbit. Peace had returned, for now. But the future of Cerex and Earth had changed forever. And it all started with one unexpected moment, when a human entered a queen's chamber and everything changed. 2 months had passed since the attempted coup on Veltrin. Since then, peace had slowly returned to the Syrexian Empire. But nothing was quite the same. Queen Zelria had grown even stronger in the eyes of her people. She had stood firm against traitors, defended her title, and built new alliances, especially with the humans. At her side, through it all, was Jack Reed, the human engineer who had once walked into her private chamber by accident. That strange and awkward moment had started everything. Now, Jack was known across the Syrexian systems as Honor-Bearer Reed, the first human ever to receive a Syrexian title. Jack didn't care much for titles. He still wore his old Earth jumpsuit most days, and he still carried his tools everywhere. But he understood what it meant. He had become a symbol of trust, living proof that peace between their two species was possible. Inside the Hall of Harmony, a large crowd had gathered for the union ceremony, an ancient Syrexian event used to seal friendships between leaders and races. No one in living memory had seen a human participate. Until now. The hall was made of shining glass and living vines, with glowing lights dancing above the guests. Nobles in traditional wraps stood tall, while human ambassadors wore clean black uniforms. Jack stood awkwardly in the middle of the grand room, pulling at the collar of his new ceremonial robe. He had been given a Cyrexian honor garment, loose, bright green with silver lines. "This feels like I'm wearing a bedsheet," Jack muttered. Zelria smiled beside him. "You look respectable for a human." Jack gave a small grin. "You're lucky I didn't show up in my jumpsuit." The music began. A deep hum filled the hall as the two species stood side by side. Zelria stepped forward. "For many years we feared humans. We saw them as dangerous. But danger, when guided by wisdom, can become strength." She turned to Jack. "This human walked into my chamber uninvited. He saw me as I am, and did not run. Instead, he helped. He stayed." Jack stepped forward next to her. "I didn't know what I was getting into," he said honestly. "But once I met her, I knew I couldn't walk away. She didn't treat me like an outsider. She gave me a chance. And now, I want to give that chance to others." The Queen raised her hand. "I offer friendship, alliance, and peace between Earth and Cyrexia." The crowd responded with soft color changes across their skin, a sign of approval. Jack held up a small silver device and pressed it. It projected a message recorded by Earth's leaders. "We accept the alliance," said the voice. "Let us walk, together, into the future." The room echoed with Cyrexian song, a gentle, haunting melody sung without words. Later that evening, Jack stood on a balcony overlooking the capital city. The stars above Veltrin sparkled bright, and the air smelled like warm spice. Zelria joined him, holding 2 cups of glowing drink. "I still don't understand how this stuff doesn't kill me," Jack said, taking a sip. "It's safe," she replied. "Mostly." They stood together, shoulder to shoulder. "You could have chosen anyone to help you," Jack said. "Why me?" Zelria didn't answer right away. "Because you didn't look at me with fear or worship. You looked at me like a person." Jack smiled. "You are a person, just taller and shinier," she laughed softly. "I learned many things from you," she said. "How humans work, what they fear, what they hope for." "And I learned that Cyrexians don't care much for privacy," Jack said with a chuckle. The Queen turned to him, serious now. "You also showed me what trust means." Jack nodded. "Same here." There was a long pause between them. "Are you going back to Earth?" she asked quietly. Jack looked up at the stars. "I don't know. I miss home. But this place feels like something I helped build." "You did," she said. "And you're always welcome here." In the weeks that followed, Jack traveled between human and Cyrexian systems. He helped engineers from both. Sides worked together. He trained Cyrexian mechanics on Earth-built systems, and he explained alien tech to curious humans. Everywhere he went, people whispered his name, the human who stood with a queen. There were statues made of him, though he found that weird. Paintings in Cyrexian style, where he looked much taller than real life, and even a hollow series about his adventures, which was completely inaccurate but funny. He became a symbol, but he never let it change who he was. One day, while helping repair a crashed transport ship on the moon of Elintis, he got a message. "Come home. I have something to show you." Zelria Jack sighed and put down his wrench. "Guess it's time for another surprise." Back on Veltrin, he walked through the palace once again. This time, he knew the way, and knocked before entering. Zelria smiled at the door. "Still knocking?" she asked. "Always," Jack replied. She led him to a hidden chamber deep below the palace. Inside was a huge construction project, a new type of ship, blending Cyrexian design with human engineering. "What is this?" Jack asked, amazed. "A ship built by both our hands," Zelria said. "A new symbol. A true partnership." Jack walked along the edge, studying the structure. She's beautiful. She needs a name, Zelria said. Jack thought for a moment. Then he smiled. The first glance, Zelria laughed. Because of how we met? Exactly, Jack said. One glance, one mistake, one connection, the Queen nodded. It's perfect. On the day the ship launched, Jack stood beside the Queen once again. Crowds cheered, both human and Syrexian. The great ship rose into the sky, a symbol of unity. And as it flew into the stars, Jack turned to her. You know, he said, I never expected any of this. Zelria smiled, her skin glowing warm gold. Neither did I. But sometimes the greatest stories start with the most awkward beginnings. They laughed together, and somewhere, in the deep silence of space, two worlds moved closer, all because one human walked into a room and stayed.